It's the Oddtonewfoundland. Ghostly greetings from your host, Jonathan.
31 days of Halloween.
You guys are so funny. You hack me up. Or should I say crack me up? I'll tell you what's not funny. The fact that there's still 11 currently active serial killers and unsolved cases in 2023. Shall we begin? The Long Island serial killer. One New York serial killer has been plying his grisly trade for over 20 years now, killing at least 10 victims between 1996 and 2010, and possibly more we just don't know about yet. Dubbed the Long Island serial killer, our Craigslist Ripper, the extent of these unsolved crimes is still unknown. It was only after authorities accidentally stumbled upon human remains while searching for missing sex worker Shannon Gilbert that they realized Gilgo Beach might be a dumping area for this serial killer. After initially uncovering 4 bodies, police widened their search and discovered another 6. 8 of them were women, all escorts who used Craigslist to advertise their services. Oh boy, he's on the go. Jeff Davis 8 killers. Between 2005 and 2009, the bodies of 8 women between the ages of 17 and 30 were found dumped in the swamps of Jefferson's Davis Parish near Jennings, Louisiana. Interestingly, the victims had several things in common. Several of them knew each other, one pair of victims even being cousins. Perhaps more bizarrely was that all of the victims acted as police informants, several of whom actually reported on other Jeff Davis victims before their own murders. The investigation into murders of the Jeff Davis 8 never identified a legitimate suspect, but it led to wild allegations of misconduct amongst Louisiana police. Muddling the case further, an investigative reporter later stated the person responsible for these killings were most likely part of law enforcement themselves. Given each victim's history, this isn't too implausible. The fact that the perpetrator or perpetrators could be investigating their own crime makes the Jeff Davis a particularly disturbing case. Today, the case is known as a possible example of police corruption. In October 2019, interest in the case was renewed as a result of Showtime's new documentary on the case. Oh, we're starting to get real creepy now. The West Mesa Bone Collector. In February 2009, a woman out for a walk with her dog discovered what she believed to be human remains in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Police soon investigated, and to their shock, they subsequently discovered the remains of 11 women in total along the same stretch of land. The women ranged between ages 15 and 32 and were all involved in the sex trade. Most were Hispanic in descent, and one of the women was pregnant at the time of the murder. Whilst the case remains unsolved, police do have 2 major suspects. However, one of them is in prison on an unrelated charge, and the other is dead. Lorenzo Montoya lived in a trailer a few miles from where the victims were found, but was killed in 2006 by a sex worker, and most likely his next victim. Joseph Blee was known rapist in the area, and when police invaded his home, they found a stash of women's jewelry and underwear. Unfortunately, police weren't able to confirm a definite link. The case is still open today, and the murderer is still on the prowl. Brazil's rainbow maniac is bone-chilling. It's not just the USA where serial killers get caught, by the way. It happens all over the world. Over the span of 18 months between 2007 and 2008, the rainbow maniac killed 13 people, execution-style with bullets to the head, all of whom were killed in Patuas Park and then dumped nearby bushes with their trousers around their ankles. One of his victims he beat to death, and his 12th victim was shot a grand total of 12 times. Woo! Sao Paulo, where Cabraculuya is located, has remained one of the most progressive cities in South America. However, at the time of the murders, several ultra-conservative groups were highly vocal of their intolerance towards homosexuality in particular. It's possible that the person responsible for these killings was a vengeful homophobe looking to reduce the numbers of the gay community. There you go. You wonder why there's parades? It's because they're a minority, and this kind of stuff is real and does take place. The Ibadan Forest serial killers. Oh boy, this is starting to get a little bit worse. While we're on the subject of overseas murder, here's some real nightmare fuel for you. In Nigeria, there's a place known as the Forest of Horror, or the Evil Forest. Back in 2014, a curious motorcyclist made his way to Soka Forest in Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. What he found was like nothing he could ever seen, right out of an H.P. Lovecraft story. He found a small colonized area of decrepit buildings, and inside over 20 rotten corpses of severed human skulls, and most terrifyingly, 10 live people chained to slaughter benches. Other buildings had piles of clothes, boots, and passports inside them. Police have attempted to trace the owners of the passports, but have been unable to find them. Exactly who might be responsible for such horrors is still unconfirmed, but rumors state that the place may have been a den for religious zealots to indulge in ritual sacrifices and flesh-eating. Nigeria is a very religious country, and such cannibalistic acts have deep primal associations. Oh boy, since the discovery of the forest, many Nigerians with missing relatives have flocked to the area and searching for their loved ones. Have you heard about the smiley face killers? 45 college-age males across a 20-year span, all drowned after getting intoxicated. However, the kicker is that these drownings happened in 11 different states. Despite the distance between them, some detectives think that the drownings are actually the work of a serial killer or group of serial killers that is dubbed the smiley face murder theory. Allegedly, detectives claim that smiley faces have been found near the sites where at least 12 of the men were drowned. It's believed that these men were abducted, murdered, and disposed of in bodies of water to give impressions of accidental drowning. It's definitely a stretch to connect the murders, but they have a few things in common. First, date rape drugs were found in the systems of some of the victims, enough to render them completely unconscious. The victim profile is very similar in every case: male, white, athletic, successful, popular. Lastly is the conditions of the body. One victim had been missing for 4 days, but the deterioration of the corpse was nowhere near consistent with someone who had been dead for 6 weeks. This is also due for multiple cases and other victims. Whether or not you think the smiley face theory is a fact or fiction, there's no doubt it's definitely a little creepy. And 45 people are dead. The murderers and murderer has not been brought to justice. Have you heard about the I-70 serial killer? The I-70 killer, an unidentified American killer, haunts the memories of the Midwest with a chilling murder spree that took place in the spring of '92. The nickname stems from the proximity of the stores where his victims worked, situated just a few miles off Interstate 70. The killer's modus operandi involved targeting young, petite, brunette women working alone in specialty stores. In one instance, a male victim was mistakenly chosen due to the store's female's name and his long ponytail, which the killer may have mistaken for a woman's hair and woman's name. Interesting. That's, God, like, how crazy are you? You don't even see, I mean, this isn't even a gender-specific murderer. He's too crazy. The sinister spree began on April 8th, 1992, with the cold-blooded murder of 26-year-old Robin Feldor in Indianapolis. Investigators believe the same killer may be responsible for 2 additional murders and many, many more. The last one I'm going to leave you with, it's got a creepy name because he's called the Maniac with Dull Eyes. Also known as the Danilovsky Maniac, the Maniac with Dull Eyes was a Russian serial killer responsible for at least 7 murders between 2004 and 7. Over in Russia, various bodies were found from the city, dumped in construction sites and abandoned buildings. All of his victims were women between ages of 17 and 31, and they'd all been raped prior to the slaughter. Perhaps most creepy, however, is that each scene the killer left a calling card. Police found crude pornographic drawings on the walls near where the body was found. After establishing that a serial killer was likely responsible for these murders, police also linked the maniac with a series of murders dating back to 1999. He was also suspected in the murder of a young woman in 2010. His total assumed victim count is 17. The maniac was never caught and probably still remains out there today. And, well, let's hope he hasn't come to where you live and he's nowhere to be found. Sleep tight knowing there's lots and lots of serial killers out there in 2023 who haven't been brought to justice. Oh, and when you're done sleeping tight, don't forget to come back tomorrow as 31 Days of Halloween continues to murder its way through October. Take care, guys.
Attention all Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn radio listeners. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast brings you the best in East Coast esoterica on the first of every month. Together, we can keep it growing by sharing the show on social media, subscribing to the show wherever you may be listening to it from, and by leaving feedback about your favorite episodes. John certainly needs a friend like you to help make his dreams come true. Minus the alien abduction dreams. That is not cool at all. The Odd to Newfoundland Paranormal Podcast. Always available, always free, always odd.